Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a Western astrologer and twin flame channel. This is a video about the Leo new moon taking place on July 24th at 3:10 p.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Please check a time zone converter for your local time. Here is our Leo new moon. It's a juicy new moon, y'all. It is a juicy new moon, very transformative, very elevating, full of a lot of growth and transformation and change, especially when it comes to the groups of people that we find ourselves situated around. You may also see some tension pop off online. I definitely spoke about a lot of this in great detail and at length in the Lightworker Energy updates. Please have a listen to that and come back on over here and listen to this, as this functions like a part two to that. It may really help you understand, especially if you're having um, challenges in your connection or you're watching your person go through challenges. It may really help you understand why you're seeing what you're seeing so that you understand how to move within this energy, because some of the energy that we are seeing here at this Leo new moon extends in active potency through the end of the year. Like, it's not going anywhere. We just have this new moon's occurring inside of this energy and heightening its intensity. So definitely check that out. If you would like to book a reading, now is the right time to do that, especially if you're in a place where you're feeling like, you know what, I want to take my connection and what I'm experiencing to the next level. The August calendar is open and it's only a few days away. So I would love to talk with you, especially if you're willing to do like one of the half-hour sessions. You got some quick questions, need some quick insights about strategy or things you can do to have a positive end of year, or to take advantage of some of these energies to move in an upward spiral if instead you've been feeling pushed around by them. We can talk through how to make those changes based on the blueprint of your chart. The link to book is below. I'm over at kmoonastro.com. Let's get into Juno, our divine feminine energy, and talk about what she is doing first. Here she is at that 16th degree of Scorpio. As I mentioned last lunar update, I went into a lot of detail about her conjunction here with Vesta and with Lilith. I won't go through all of that again. I'll let you re listen to that if you want to know what that means. But Juno in this configuration, now that she is finally direct, is moving through the resolution of the retrograde issues that would have come up. Now, she moved into shadow last December on the 21st. And so we have been, and then she went retrograde in the late April, early May time frame. And now, as of the last full moon, she is finally direct. Hallelujah. So, Juno retrograde, well, Juno direct, I should say, will see us have a resolution to some of the issues that would have come up with her retrograde in Scorpio. Now, these would have been issues with power, of course. Scorpio deals with power, but it also would have been issues with what we call other people's money. So, taxes, loans, credit, debt, inheritances, and lottery winnings, scholarships, these sorts of things. You may see resolution to issues that popped up in those arenas now that Juno is direct. She stays in shadow until October 5th, I believe it is. October 5th. And then she moves into Sagittarius. So resolution may show up spontaneously between now and then. In the present time, it looks more organic because of her trine to Jupiter, which I'm going to speak to in a moment. But it could also be not just what we call other people's money, but it could also be reproductive health, anything having to do with sexual health and well being. You may find that there's a resolution to things that showed up in that arena now that Juno is direct. You may get some really potent messages from your sacral chakra and your creative center, in those God source energy centers in your body, or that particular one, I should say. You may also find that there's resolution with uh, sex, power, money. Yes, those are the thing, power issues. So if there have been manipulation and control issues, or shadow work issues, those deeper emotions that came up, you'll find there's resolution there. Now, some of you went on a very metaphysical journey, is what I heard just now. This is a little off script. Little metaphysical journey while Juno was retrograde in Scorpio. And so communications and interludes with the earthbound spirits that are always around us, the departed. You may have ventured into the occult or reevaluated your relationship with things like tarot, things like astrology, etc., or even some of your own spiritual gifting in these arenas. As Juno goes direct, especially if any of those experiences were scary or challenging or painful, you will find that there's resolution there as well. And much of that resolution is aided by Vesta and Lilith, who are really helping Juno stand in her light, stand in the energy of unapologetically me, stand in that energy of self value, self worthiness, self commitment while being connected to others. And that's the interesting thing, right? Juno is a partnership energy, and Scorpio is a sign that deals with value, but in particular, how the world values you. And so there's this very interesting interplay, because the question is, how do I, with Lilith and Vesta speaking to her, how do I value myself while also staying connected to others? Sometimes valuing yourself, and we certainly see a lot of this in, you know, popular online and social media culture, where the only way to value yourself while staying connected to others is to disconnect from others. And I talk about that, and the balance in that in the Lightworker Energy Update. But with Juno here in particular, in communication with Lilith and Vesta from the sign of Scorpio, this is about staying connected to self while staying connected to others, and really finding that way to value yourself, be yourself, honor yourself without needing to sever and separate. So it's a really interesting energy, especially to see it unfolding at this particular lunation. I think that's going to really clarify for some of you who identify heavily in divine feminine energy, meaning you just don't resonate when I speak about the divine masculine parts, in these updates. There's You don't see any of that happening in your journey at all. So if you're really just anchored in divine feminine energy exclusively, you may find that this is a very interesting period of time where there's like a homecoming to self while staying connected to others, like not giving up any parts of yourself, but also not giving up any other either. So it's a both and, as opposed to an either or here. So I like to see it. That's a really beautiful energy in Juno's space for us collectively to tap into. Like I said, those resolutions can really show up, for any of those issues in the arenas of sex, power, and money that I mentioned. Those are the scorpionic and shadow work. Those are the scorpionic themes now that she is direct. And I also really love to see that Jupiter's enhancement here for her as she does this. So, Jupiter, I read as the divine masculine. And there is this way that even if you're not in communication with a counterpart or in connection, it could have been 2 weeks, could have been 2 years. 20 years, even if you're not in communication, there is this way that there's counterpart energetics. Could be their higher self, could be the connection itself that's holding space for the divine feminine transformational journey here as she continues through Scorpio. So, and she still has a ways to go. Like I said, it's not till October 5th that she comes out of this sign of transformation, growth, and change and rebirth. But we also see that as she gets closer to the final exit point before she goes into Sagittarius, she'll oppose Uranus in Gemini a second time, which she did at the very beginning of this transit. And so Uranian energy is uh, massively evolutionary. It forces us to step up. It's non-linear. It's quantum movement. And so we get another jolt of Uranian activation through the divine feminine energetic fields. And this is where we may see sudden resolution, spontaneous resolution of the themes that Juno may have explored for you personally in Scorpio. And that'll be out in that late September, early October timeframe, should that, if organic resolution hasn't happened by then. But the organic resolution is really supported by Jupiter's expansive energy flowing into the arena, the receptive energy of Juno here in Scorpio. And so, as husband and wife team of the zodiac, we do see Jupiter in very emotional sign, water sign Cancer, very emotionally grounded, rooted, oriented sign Cancer. Scorpio is also a deeply emotional sign too. All the water signs are. The water signs deal with emotions, but it's a different type of emotional frequency. And so she's the receptive energy. She's receiving support from the divine masculine energetic fields for this exploration and this growth of staying connected while also staying with herself, both and. Again, this doesn't mean you and your person have to be in some format of communication at all. Certainly, a communication window has opened up here, and I'm going to speak to that in a minute. But that support vibrationally is still very much there. And those of you who are vibrationally open and sensitive to the connection, you may really be feeling this. You may be feeling your counterpart, feeling their support, feeling the emotional resonance and connection between the two of you at this time. And so, one of the things that I also will say is that the emotional balance, since they're both in water signs through October 5th, is so, so key and critical. It would be very easy to get into an emotional ping pong match at lower frequencies between the two of you, especially given the energetic and the universal dynamic oneness that shows itself between divine counterparts. And it could be very much be like a race to the bottom here. I would say if you've got heavier emotions, do what you need to do to just clear them, especially if you're not in communication and can't talk it through with one another, and come to, the same page and harmony together. Giving yourself that opportunity to like do your EFT, do your nervous system regulation, talk to your therapist, do your rage therapy, you know, do the self compassion work, do your anger management groups, like do what you need to do to find yourself in a space of clearing and neutrality as Juno wraps up in Scorpio. I'm not saying repress the emotions. I'm saying deal with them in a way that doesn't project them onto your counterpart, both counterparts really, and then simultaneously find your way to live in a bit more neutrality as best as you're able to. Now, for some of you, I am aware, like you have some very challenging situations going on with your person in such a way where the only way you're able to stay in neutrality while they move through some of their growth process is that you can't be in proximity. You actually need the distance. because that way you can connect to their 5D self. You don't have to worry about nothing going on in the 3D because that's too triggering. It's too stimulating to have front row seats to their growth, change, and transformation. I get it. Um, if that's what you need to do, do it. I'm not an advocate of separation. I'm just saying do what you need to do to keep the frequency between you from getting dragged down and bogged down by both of you being in such heaviness, which can happen with when you see both counterparts inside of water signs. Okay, if either or both of you is struggling personally or struggling in the connection. Okay, so that's one way to handle it. The other way, like I said, if you guys are in communication, like talk it out, like communicate, like share. This is a great time, especially because we do see her square to Mercury retrograde. This is a great time to have conversations, to be in dialogue, to share some things that you may have been sitting on or withholding, to just air it out so the two of you can have the opportunity to come back to harmony together. And I'm not saying vent on your person. Like, again, therapy is a great thing. Your person's not your therapist. But I am saying it's an awesome opportunity to really be in a place of sovereignty with your emotions while sharing them with another. Again, there's that theme connected to self while being connected to another person. Now, this Mercury retrograde, speaking to Juno, now that she's direct, may really have you hesitating on what to say, how to say it, when to say it, wanting to get the words right, and maybe even struggling to be vulnerable, be transparent, be open. But I do see again that energetic support from Jupiter in Cancer is helping. It's helping you to take that step where it's like, let's go to the next layer of intimacy together. Let me hear some things that you've not yet said. Let me share some things that I've not yet revealed. That sort of thing can happen here. Now, want to be honest, Mercury retrograde square Juno, you may hear some things that are uncomfortable to hear. I don't want to sugarcoat that. You may hear some things that have you feeling slightly like, dang, I wish they hadn't said that because that hurt. That was harsh. Um, but there, again, if you're in communication, there's ample opportunity to find your way back to being on the same page, to understanding where is that coming from? Why did you say it like that? This is what I heard. Is that what you meant? Great opportunity to review communications, um, ask for clarity and understanding, especially if you've been hanging out in the Chiron Eris energy of feeling deeply victimized by the connection, which is something I spoke about at length in the Lightworker energy update. You don't have to stay there. This is an opportunity for you to get to a higher frequency in the connection with your person. Like I said, especially if the doors of communication are open. And I do see Jupiter speaking to Juno has opened this like small communication union window that stretches itself well into August, late August, early September. So take advantage of it, folks. Take advantage of it. Have those conversations. Have a lot of grace for the other if they're getting their words out in ways that maybe be a little tactless. Know that I don't see intention here or sharp words being in like or malice in communication. If anything, I'm just seeing people struggling to get the words out to begin with, and so it may come out in a rocky way, and then that's just your starting point, and you work your way to harmonious clarity as you ask questions, deeper dive, and unpack conversation and communication together. Okay. Um, yeah, there's other stuff. We have a sextile to Mars in Virgo for Juno here. I love to see this. This opens the way for, I want to, I Yeah, I might have to clip this and bring it over to this channel because I spoke at length with those who were with me for live mini readings. The last live mini readings I did over on the live mini reading channel. Link to that is below this video if you want to do a live mini reading with me. Mars speaking to the South Node has been an extraordinary release of self relate karma related to self. And I don't often use the word karma. I don't like to use that word because I think it's really misconstrued, especially for those of us who are Westerners. It's not shared in a way that's empowering always or communicated about in this way. But when we see the South Node in play, the South Node can bring a lot of release. It can bring a lot of letting go of programs and of patterns that have not served us. It's a release point. And so, Mars here, speaking to the South Node, Mars is the governor of the sign of self. It's also the governor of the sign of shadow, that's Scorpio. There is a lot of interior, say, behaviors, let's just say that word behaviors, that maybe have not worked well for us, patterns. Virgo governs patterns. A lot of interior behaviors and patterns that may have come up in the last 30 days so that they can come out. It's just time. Like, we're all at this point where collectively we are ready to take a step toward holding higher frequencies of our God self inside, higher frequencies of light. We're certainly seeing with these solar flares, it's, really pushing us vibrationally and energetically to higher frequencies when it comes to consciousness and elevation of consciousness as well. Many of you who haven't experienced ascension symptoms in years may be experiencing those once again. And especially for the divine feminine, now speaking to this Mars conjunct K2, Mars conjunct South Node there in Virgo, there's a huge, huge release of, I want to say, I'm going to use this loosely, dark feminine energy, where there is, like, and I'm not pathologizing it. I'm just saying this energy where it's like utilizing feminine energy in ways that are akin to toxic masculinity, but from the feminine side. And that may not be what you consider dark feminine energy to be. That's totally okay. Like I said, I'm using the term loosely, not directly. But where there has been the correlate point for, I'm going to be specific here, biologically born, cis-born women, gender identifying women, where there has been the correlate point for toxic masculinity in the feminine form, for toxic femininity to exist. This is a moment of comeuppance around some of that, where if that has been how you've been rolling, I do see this Mars conjunct South Node, Mars being governor of Scorpio, where divine feminine energy sits. I do say the universe saying, nah, this isn't what we're about to do. It's not what you're here for. It's not what you came for. This isn't going to serve you in getting where you want to be. I see the universe placing some strong checks and balances around this sort of operating system through releasing it and no longer allowing it to thrive in the connection and in the divine feminine's field. And so, for those who have really clung to some of those ways or avoided trying to have to grow through that, I do see this energy really opening up a purge point for you that is coming with a lot of separation and emotional upheaval. For those of you who've already been in the process of releasing that, like, yeah, this isn't serving me, I see an acceleration coming here, where you're really getting some clarity. Like, yeah, I don't want to be that way anymore. I want to be a different way, with divine masculine energy, with my own energy, with my own power. I want to operate on a different, I see on a different way in the third dimension. I see an acceleration of a lot of that showing itself between now and the end of the year, especially as Juno gets into the sign of truth in October. That's Sagittarius. And this particular lunar update, where we've got her talking to Mars conjunct the South Node, like I said, it's a bit of a purge point and release. And so allow it to be that for you if you already know, like, you know what? I have been operating in some ways that do not serve me. You'll find that, or does it just, it hasn't worked in my connection. I need to find a new way to be. You'll find that this is a very potent new moon for it. There's two readers I really love for this. One of them is Divine Formations, formerly known as Spiritual Baddie Tarot. You can find her Divine Formations YouTube available. I think this week she's offering spiritual questions, and I think she's offering them for free. I was like, girl, be prepared for the floodgates. That those kind of questions are my favorite kind of questions to ask her. Spiritual questions about my evolution and growth. She's excellent at being able to pinpoint not just what your counterpart needs to do to grow, but what you need to do to grow too. And she will not hold back. She won't lie to you. She won't sugarcoat it. So be mentally and emotionally prepared for that. She's not going to be mean. She's just not going to coddle you. And frankly, I like that sort of reading. The other one is Miss Aso Tarot. A lot of you guys know her. She has a wonderful YouTube channel where she does huge deep dives that are like an hour long or more in her pick a card readings. Now, I've never been a huge fan of the pick a card format because I'm like, I could pick any of these. How do I know what's going to work for me? But baby, when I tell you Miss Aso Tarot reads me for filth every time. Like she tells me my good news, my bad news, and what I need to do to elevate in a way that is just, I'm like, how are you doing this? You're reading for hundreds of thousands of people. How are you this accurate and specific about my life? She's one of the only pick a card or kind of like collective tarot readers who's never triggered me to like need to go get my own personal reading to learn more. She's always left me enriched and clear, so I strongly recommend checking out some of Aso Tarot's work. She's a true light and a true gift here on the planet. So yeah, especially if you're feeling this heavy release of like I said, you could call it karmic energy, dark feminine energy, but it's not really either one of those. It's just programming that has been in feminine energy fields for a long time that has said uh, utilizing your shadow is a great way to pull men into their light. And that's, I think we've all collectively, we've outgrown that story. That one is dying out, that program. And we're all collectively ready to take a huge step forward. So, really good stuff. I talked about the square to Mercury in Leo. Um, which is a great opportunity for shares and communication. Um, Huge opportunity for a bridge to greater intimacy between those who are in communication. It could also be just you in communication with yourself. And then we see a square to Pallas and Chariklo in Aquarius here. And this can have us all letting our guard down a bit and allowing ourselves to be a bit more human with ourselves and in our connection. Can really have ourselves seeing ourselves, accepting ourselves. Because both Cheroklo and Pallas are retrograde and direct, they're very protective energies. Retrograde, some of that, and especially in square or intention, some of that protection recedes. And so when we don't have those sort of like ego barriers and protections, we get the opportunity to see ourselves at that soul level, like what are the machinations of our mind, the patterns of our emotions, the patterns in our behaviors, that are ongoing. And so you may feel like a desire to be seen for your true self and willing to show your true self to others in connection is really going to help deepen intimacy. And if you identify in some format of separation, this is when, if you do connect in the 3D, it has the chance to be both awkward and sweet, especially if you both go into it just being open and curious about each other, less hoping and trying and pushing and pulling to get the other person to act a certain way or expecting the past to repeat. Like, oh no, they're going to do this again. They're going to back away. They're going to shut down. They're going to block me. Ah! When you can really release some of those stories, which is a lot of what I'm seeing here with Juno, speaking to Mars in the South Node, there's more releases coming, but this is a big one. You can release some of those old narratives. You can really have the opportunity to be in clean slate energy with someone. But even if this is just a communication between you and you, where you're like really feeling that vulnerability about yourself. And again, I went into great detail because there's other energies in play that are supporting us collectively with this more than just the counterparts. That self vulnerability is going to go a long way in helping you step into your true power at this new moon. Power to be who you are, power to know what you want, power to know what you don't want, power to release what's not serving, power to step into what does, change the pattern, change the script, all of that. So, really beautiful energy in the divine feminine energetic fields. I do like to see this. We see a bit of a T square here with Juno being the fulcrum point between this Mercury retrograde, this Charical Palace, and this Juno. Anytime we see a T square, it creates a level of tension that can have us feeling torn. This Mercury retrograde in Leo is pulling us toward, a lot of self-reflection. This Chariclo Palace retrograde in Aquarius has us wanting to let our guard down with other people and share and connect. Pull to be inside, pull to go outside. And here's Juno in very potent Scorpio. The answer is always going to be in the sign that has no occupation in a T square, and that's Taurus. Taurus has no planets in those mid degrees, no asteroids in those mid degrees. And Taurus is all about that self nurturing, that self love, that self care, that self rapport, that self affinity, self respect, self honoring, and self cherishing. And so, with nothing here, this invites us and our light bodies to occupy this space to resolve some of the tension. So, moment to moment, decision by decision, activity by activity, if you're feeling torn, the invitation the planets are providing is to say, you know what? What's most nourishing and nurturing to me right now? Let me just go and do that. Let me not worry about anybody else. Let me just keep my eyes on my own test and just do what's going to nourish and nurture me. And by doing that, it actually balances out the other and self tension. It may, and for some, as we work through this, you may find that as we head toward the weekend and the following week, you need to reset people's expectations around some of your commitments so that you can be self honoring and really bind yourself tightly to your self affinity as you're releasing other affinity and belonging with others in order to really belong to yourself at this time. Okay. So, that's what I have in the divine feminine energetic fields. Let's talk about Jupiter in Cancer. And if you need some help in your personal journey, you can always book with me over at kmoonastro.com. Link is below this video. And if you're in one of the communities with me, in your member area, you will find the savings code to book as well as some added availability that I put in just for you guys. It's not available on the website. It's just the link in your member area. I updated it for that so that we can have some time together while this energy is active, okay? So here's Jupiter in Cancer. This is our divine masculine energy at that 10-degree mark of Cancer. I really love to see it, especially because normally we have a collective narrative. "Oh, the divine masculine's a runner. The divine masculine doesn't has to face their feelings." On and on and on and on. I don't really get into all that rhetoric, but I love the way Jupiter in Cancer implodes that rhetoric and turns it on its head. Because Jupiter in the highly emotionally driven water sign of Cancer is opening the divine masculine energetic fields to emotional truth, emotional reality, emotional congruence. And I think because Jupiter goes through all the signs, it's a really beautiful opportunity for us to recognize where we may have been boxing ourselves, if we ourselves identify as divine masculine, or the other person, if you identify them as divine masculine, where you've been boxing that person or yourself in, because this Jupiter in Cancer is expanding everyone's emotional fields, in particular our internal masculine energetic field, so that we cannot act out of congruence with our emotional truth. It's not going to stand during this year that Jupiter is in Cancer. We will need to face and deal with, align ourselves congruently with our emotional reality. And I love this. I think this is going to be a huge wake up call for all of us collectively, because especially those of us in the Western world, and you know who you are, doesn't have to be just be United States, but those of us in the Western world, the template, the collective template for um, material reward, and that includes housing, it includes money, it includes jobs and other resources. That collective template is has been based on one that has been a masculine energy that's severed from its emotional reality. And so I don't care what kind of body you incarnated into, if you have been living in the Western world for any length of time, the reward system is based on that severance. And this Jupiter through Cancer is inviting us into a homecoming, to really understand the feedback loop between our reality and our emotions, and get some mastery, get some control. And I don't mean you have to control your emotions in a bad way. I mean to start understanding how your emotions are a reflection of your consciousness and the choices you're making, in a way where you can make better choices that really serve you and how you want to feel in the third dimension, by just starting to tune in to those emotional realities and the truths that they're revealing to us about where we may be out of alignment. So really a beautiful energy here. I went in depth about it in a lunar update a while back, where I talked about Jupiter's ingress into Cancer, and what that would mean for the divine masculine energetic field. I may pull that out as its own separate sort of standalone update for divine counterparts. For those of you who are like, I missed that, which one was it? I think I will find that so you guys can re listen at your leisure, because Jupiter's going to hang out there in Cancer for the better part of a year. And this emotional homecoming isn't meant for us to drown in our emotions. It's meant for us to have some emotional mastery and thrive. So, really good stuff, because Jupiter is known as the teacher. So, really good stuff there. We see a trine to Juno, which, like I said, opens up a miniature communication union window. Some of you are going to feel this more empathically then you will see it in the third dimension. And then there are those of you who are really going to see movement in the third dimension. Of a lot of you in the union workshop groups who've completed the material are you've already written into myself and Yielded Vessel, Romania, and you said, yes, there's movement. Oh my God, it's happening. I love that that's unfolding for you. This Jupiter trine Juno is a big piece of the stars setting the stage for that. And you already being in the place where you're like, oh, okay, now I know what choices to make to be in alignment with it based on everything we taught in the union workshop. So, love to see it. Thank you for sharing. It was a lot of fun to be in that workshop space with you. We do see a square to Ceres in Aries. And so here is Ceres in Aries squaring that Jupiter in Cancer. This is opening up a bit of a closure energy, although it's a tricky one in the squaring position. It can open up some motivation to close by causing a little tension and a little bit of emotional kerfluffle first, where we start to see maybe again, Ceres is in the sign of the self, that's Aries. We start to see some things about ourselves where we're like, ew, I don't know if I like that. Let me switch it up. And it may have a little bit of emotional intensity to it. Another read for this is in our divine masculine fields, there is a definitive maybe closure with a mom or a mother or maternal or female authority figure, or maybe it's a boss or a mentor who's retiring. Could also be your mom deciding, I'm retiring and moving across the world, bye, have a great life. I've definitely seen some of you who are moms like come into my session and be like, my kids are grown. I got to get out of here. What can I do with my life? They can have at it. I'm ready to move on and do me again. So that energy is certainly here as well, but it speaks overall to a closure of a season in our divine masculine energy fields. Could be one that has to do with family, but it could also be as simple as emotional programming since Jupiter is in Cancer. Definitely opportunity for some healing there. We also see Jupiter square Make in Libra over here. So let me clean this up because I want to talk about another T square that's here. So here's Ceres, here's Make in Libra, and there's our T square. This this is a prompt to, with the T square, I'm going to get to the T square piece in a minute. It's actually more of a grand cross once again because we see Pholus there in Capricorn. I like to pretend sometimes Pholus doesn't exist because sometimes Pholus can bring challenging energies, but there's Pholus in the mix, and the tension here between Jupiter and Pholus, Ceres and Make, this combo really is letting, first of all, I have addressed and called out divine feminine toxicity. Let me speak to the divine masculine side here. Where there has been operation in partnership that has created problems when it comes to getting on the same page, being emotionally congruent and connected, being having a sense of self that's all ego based and not really present, where there's been hidden vulnerability. We're going to see this new moon call it out and say, you know what? This is not it. I didn't come for this. This is not what we're doing. This is not the pattern, the path that is going to really serve us. Um, so yeah, I like to see this for both sides of the connection. It's a very humbling new moon for both people in the connection in certain ways, where if there's been any sort of behaviors or patterns emotionally or thought wise or communication wise that just have undermined the connection taking its true shape in the third dimension, this new moon's going to help both people see it and give you the option to make some other choices. Now, not everybody makes other choices, but the stars God, the divine, they're generous. They're not going to ride roughshod over your free will to make change. They're just going to nudge. Maybe, if it's morning 3 or 4, hit you with that 2 by 4, let you know change is a great idea. Maybe now's a good time. Um, if you're not learning and growing, you can get that nudge to keep moving forward. So I like to see this collectively. Make Make is talking about lessons learned in partnership. That's Make Make in Libra, our partnership sign, and bringing wisdom back for the tribe after an arduous journey and growth that may have taken place individually. Ceres here in opposition is about closure to ways of being a self. If there's any parts of self or identity that you've outgrown, Ceres is about to take that scythe and cut it off. Be like, nah, the season is closed for this. I'm not doing that anymore. That's stupid. It's not working for me. Jupiter opposite Pholus here, and I see this a lot in energetic fields of divine masculine energy. And I talked about this at the last lunar update as well, and I like that it's extended into this lunar update because it gives people time to integrate the messages and then take appropriate action in their relationships. But this right here speaks to really the hero complex that can be an overcorrection to toxic masculinity, where instead of being the toxic guy, I'm going to be the hero guy and put it all on my back. I'm going to do everything for everyone, be, Johnny on the spot, Jasmine on the spot for any and everyone and what they need. I'm available at all times to anyone who needs help. Never want to leave a person hanging. And overcorrecting in that way can actually stop people from learning how to stand on their own 2 feet when they really need to. And so, this Jupiter opposite Pholus energy is bringing into the divine masculine energetic field the invitation to correct that and come back into a bit more balance through really presenting any emotions that come up when you're that available to people at all times, any and everyone in your world. Any emotions you have of like feeling taken for granted or resentment or emotions of feeling like, when is it ever going to be my turn? Like left out, not considered, disregarded. Any of those emotions are going to get amplified with connections that are operating in that way, where you're constantly at the mercy of someone else's learned helplessness. This energy is going to have you come into a place of like, oh, I can change that. Now, I made that sound so simple. I know it's not. So, whether you incarnated or identify, male or female, doesn't matter, trans, whatever, if you know this has been your way of living, this energy in the divine masculine energetic fields is really trying to help you learn how to let that go. And I do see there's going to be some people here who are like, based on what I saw in the Lightworker energy update, deep in victim story, deep in you're my savior, you're my hero, I need you to come fix it, come help me. If you don't do it, nobody will. I'll be lost, I'm drowning. I know those people are very loud right now. But I'm also quite aware that for you, helping in this moment because of the way Pholus is opposite and the lesson learner and bringer is square, and Ceres, the closer, is also square. For you, stepping into those kind of dynamics it wouldn't actually be helping them, it would be enabling continuation of learned helplessness. So, Yeah, I like this. Like I said, these planets, they are on a hardcore evolutionary track for both counterparts, whether you identify in some format of separation or some format of union. They are really nudging, pushing, pulling sovereignty for both counterparts, so that as we get closer and closer to the next union window, there's space for your union to exist because you're not clogged up with remnants from the past or people who want to use your divinity as their crutch because they can't even stand up in their own humanity. So, that's what I got. Let me just see that I cover everything. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Okay, I love it. This is good stuff for both sides of the connection. If you want some support, I'd love to talk to you in August. That calendar is open. Link is below this video. If you are not a member of the communities, if you are a member of my communities, your link is in your member area along with your 20% savings code. And I would love to talk to you at any point in the month. Thank you so much for being here, for liking, for subscribing, for sharing what you're going through so that other people know they're not alone there in the comment section. And I'll see you at the next lunar update. Take great care and bye for